Hey guys, what is going on? So as I was sitting down to record this video about Dave Gettleman reportedly returning as the Giants GM next year, I saw the news, I saw the reports that Patrick Graham will be returning as the Giants defensive coordinator and assistant coach. He signed a new contract, so let's clap it up for that. Let's do some Jason Garrett claps for that. Let's do our Jason Garrett claps for that, everyone. I see you watching this video. You gotta do your Jason Garrett claps for this. This is big news because Patrick Graham is a genius. Patrick Graham is a genius and is a huge reason why the Giants had success during this year. I'm not saying this season was a success, but the bright spot of this Giants season was the defense and Patrick Graham's coaching, honestly, because that defense was really special, especially during that Seahawks game and a few other games. This defense did some really amazing things, so it's huge that Patrick Graham is back as the Giants defensive coordinator. So, let's talk about Dave Gettleman now. So, it has been reported, I believe the New York Post reported it first, that Dave Gettleman will be returning as the Giants GM next season. So honestly, I'm not super surprised by this news because as the season went on, it just seemed more and more likely that Dave Gettleman would be back as GM. So Dave Gettleman's record as the Giants GM is 15-33. So obviously, that's not a great record. But I will say this, when he was hired as GM, you know, he wasn't coming into the best situation. There was a lot of work to do, and he really did have to rebuild this team. Like, he really did have to rebuild this roster, this team. But with that being said, the Giants, they should have been around 500 this year. They should have had a 500 season, 8-8, or have been closer to having a 500 season than they were, in my opinion. Dave Gettleman, he took over as the GM. He was hired as the Giants GM end of 2017. So the 2018 draft was his first draft for the Giants. So in the 2018 draft, the Browns had the number 1 overall pick, and they obviously drafted Baker Mayfield. And with the number 2 overall pick, the Giants obviously drafted Saquon Barkley. And a lot of people bring up this draft when talking about Dave Gettleman because, you know, the Browns and the Giants both had the top 2 picks, and the Browns are now a playoff team this year, and the Giants are not. Even in a bad division, the Giants did not make the playoffs. And yes, I guess you could say the Browns quarterback is in his 3rd year right now. Baker Mayfield is in his 3rd year, and he went through a little bit of a sophomore slump. So, you know, Daniel Jones is only in his 2nd year. You could say maybe he went through a little bit of a sophomore slump. You know, he did struggle at times this year. He ended the season on a positive note, in my opinion. So you can argue, you know, the Giants are just a year behind the Browns. But if you're going to argue that, then next season is crucial for the Giants and Dave Gettleman, and also Daniel Jones, obviously. As we all know, Dave Gettleman got a lot of criticism for drafting Daniel Jones number 6 overall. So, you know, if Daniel Jones has a great season next year, it makes Dave Gettleman look really smart, and if he doesn't have a good season next year, it makes Dave Gettleman look like he deserved that criticism for drafting him at number 6 overall. In my opinion, at the very least, very least, the Giants need to be a 500 football team next season. I believe they should be a winning football team next season, but at the very least, they need to be a 500 team. And I believe if they aren't at least a 500 football team, or maybe even a winning football team, Dave Gettleman will not be the GM in 2022. I felt like the rebuild should have been over by this season, but I understand since Daniel Jones is only in his 2nd season, you know, it takes time for quarterbacks to adjust to the NFL and all that. But really, next year, they gotta be a winning football team. They really do. Going into next season, I don't want to hear that the Giants are still rebuilding. Their coach will be going into his 2nd season. Daniel Jones will be going into his 3rd season. They gotta have a winning record by then. But listen, there were definitely positives in this season for the Giants. I believe there were more positives in this season than there have been for the past few seasons. I really believe they're heading in the right direction. So that's why I think Dave Gettleman is still the GM, you know. They're heading in the right direction finally, so I don't think it's the right time to fire your GM. I think another big reason that Dave Gettleman will be back as GM was this 2020 free agent class. Let's look at the players that signed with the Giants this past offseason. James Bradbury, Blake Martinez, Logan Ryan. I mean, these are guys who really helped the Giants win games, who were really a big part of this team. Obviously, this defense was so important to this team. And, the real reason why they won games, because the offense still has a lot of issues. But the players that signed with the Giants this past offseason really had a huge impact on the team. So that's it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think about Dave Gettleman coming back as GM and Patrick Graham coming back as the defensive coordinator and assistant head coach. Make sure to drop a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Peace out.